Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Higher Density Living Podcast. Jason's got a nice update for what's going on online, and if you're watching here on video, you'll see him wearing this super fucking badass shirt. Thank you very much. And what's it got on the back? Hold on.
Higher Density Living.
Oh, look at the logo on there. I don't think
we have a new logo, but
I've never had my back to the camera. New website's up.
Touché.
New website's up.
Yes, higherdensityliving.com.
Yeah.
The shop is on there.
Yeah.
We're building out courses, and we're looking at doing the $11.11
Yes.
community.
And when the courses are done, I'm also going to put together a book. I will publish a book under HDL for all of us to buy if you're a book reader.
That's awesome. Yeah.
It's a lot of work, but I'll do it.
That's a lot of work.
Why not?
That's a lot of work. But the cool part is the shop's up now, so you can purchase materials. We have some really cool T-shirts. You see them? I think we have like 102 on there now.
102, 100.
We have aliens, Bigfoot.
We got everything under the sun.
We have Polarian goddesses.
Yeah, it's great.
We have like the list goes on. And you'll see that. You just go to higherdensityliving.com, click shop button.
Is the coffee mug up there yet?
Coffee mugs there. We got
coffee
Higher Density
mug.
Living shirts if you want to.
You just want the logo.
What we did is the Higher Density Living shirts with the big logo or the smaller logo. Those are way cheaper than our other shirts, and we're not going to hardly make anything.
Yeah.
But we just want to get the name out there. And
Yeah, it's just that you guys can be the walking billboards.
yeah,
Thank you.
exactly. Yes,
Thank
thank
you.
you. And it's all not for profit.
I always twist my clothing. I do this all the time.
We're a 501c3.
There we go. That looks better.
Cool. So I want to get into. You got an email.
I love
from
getting
some gentleman.
I love getting emails from our community base here. And you know what the cool part is? It's not just the United States. It's New Zealand, right? We got Kiwis.
Oh, that's awesome.
We got Kiwis sending
So
emails.
beautiful. New Zealand
you know?
looks like something that's not even from here.
Yeah, and there's we have flightless birds down there and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
So weird.
Beautiful.
So weird. So I got a question here, and I already let this person know I was going to read it live. So I appreciate them writing an email, and for anybody else that's listening, if you want to write us emails, we'd be happy to answer any of your questions here live on the show. So let me go through this, and I'm going to read the whole damn thing here because why not? It says, "Hi, Alex," or "Hey. I've just started to listen to your podcast with Jason, and it is resonating with me a lot. If I only were to listen to one podcast, I think it'd be yours." Okay, first of all, I wanted to put that in there because it's great.
Yeah,
Thank you very
badass.
much.
Yeah,
I
thank you.
appreciate that. He said, "Other ones have some information, but yours seem to cover everything I'm looking for." Fantastic. You're the one searching, right? We're not trying to shove it down your mouth. That's why we put this stuff out here.
Well, I like the word he said, resonate.
Yeah.
So there's always this vibrational resonation that happens. It's tuning forks.
That's what it is. So it's like we're just all tuning into one another.
Yeah,
What was
exactly.
that radio thing you were telling me a couple seconds ago? And I said, I can't hear you.
The airwaves. Yeah.
Yeah, the airwaves.
So you can run 100 different channels
Yeah.
over the airwaves. Like why? Why is it? Why do we figure out broadcasting
Right.
through the airwaves?
It's all just big waves like this going up and down. Which one do you want to jump into?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so wanted to ask some information here. Had a query about eating meat. Okay, cool. Seems fair. Seems totally fair.
We did like how many episodes? Old school episodes we have where we did like 2 or 4.
2 or 4. So
About
this person's way
yes,
back.
Yeah.
Right, which is great. But I'm glad we can come back now and begin to talk about this. He come aus New Zealand, so he comes from New Zealand. So we have home kill beef and pork. And for people that don't understand that, what that means is that if you live on a farm-based piece of land, some people raise their own meat and they slaughter it and eat it. Okay, so they do that for cows and pigs. Okay, beef and pork. Where we raise animals on a farm, they are almost part of the family. And this is hilarious because the person put in parentheses, I know that sounds fucked up. I mean, but listen, it's bound to happen, right?
I had a farm for a while, so I get what he's saying.
What do you mean? Explain.
Well, they become not family per se, but they become a necessary part of it. It draws you into when you go. You can name them or whatever.
Yeah.
Kids used to name, but we had cows and horses and all that stuff. Of course, you don't eat the horses.
I was about to ask you guys eat horses.
we didn't eat-
You
we
already
eat cows.
felt my brainwave.
The pigs, chickens, and but it becomes part of that. But then at the same time, there's this, and I think I was watching a whole thing on Nordic and Celtic, that old school religion that they had.
Okay.
And I wanted to tie this into this too, because I think this is really important. What do they call it with where you worship Odin and all that?
Paganism, Norse mythology.
And a lot of it was like they were doing this one ceremony, and then they would light 2 huge bonfires on either side.
Mm-hmm.
And then the cows would come out for springtime. They had the spring festival, and the Green Man comes, super cool dude, which we're gonna have a Green Man shirt here pretty soon. And then they would lead the cows, so they would have this bonfire, have this fun time, everybody's getting together, community, all that, do rituals, which is really important. And then they would let the cows come out of the barn, and then they would walk the cows through the 2. They wouldn't hurt them, but they would walk them through. Now, what they didn't even realize was what was happening was all the bugs, as they would come out into the field, the smoke would cause the bugs to fall off of them from the barn. So there's like a beneficial factor too. But it's kind of including in that process of that ritualistic atmosphere. Humans process things in ritualistic ways. That's evolutionary psychology. We've done it for years and years.
Yeah.
You don't need to be spiritual. You don't need to do a ritual.
No.
But whether you meditate, that's a ritual. Mm-hmm. Whether you pray, whatever you may do.
Take vitamins.
Exactly.
Breathe.
Take vitamins, breathe. Yeah. Everything's kind of can become
breathing's a ritual thing I do. Keeps me straight.
But when you're including animals in your life, whether they're dogs, whether they're farm animals, whatever it is, there's a process where because it's nature, there's an attachment to it, and they're not conscious like all of nature. That's why it's such an example for us. Now, I think the moralistic side of things, where he's talking about, and he talks about it in there.
Yeah,
I think he's feeling guilty for eating it based off of our podcast. Yeah. And that's what I want to get into. Yeah, we're gonna just to clarify, I eat meat.
Yeah, we're gonna clear this.
So yeah. So I eat a lot of meat. So and I eat processed meat. I eat stuff, and then so whether I'm wrong or right, I don't. To me, it's immoral, like amoral.
Yeah.
So it would be different with you being vegan, but for me, I don't really. I'm not at that spiritual level, I guess, yet or whatever. But I wanted to get into the guilt factor here because I think this is really important.
Well, can I just say the fact that when they were young kids here, wrote in the email, they used to sleep with the animals in a barn?
Yeah, exactly.
Very
People
interesting.
Used to do that.
But like
warm.
And let's talk about this again for a second here. You walk into your bedroom, okay?
Yes.
It's your bed. There's an association of comfort and sleep, right?
Right.
If you spend enough time with something, you become comfortable with it.
Yes.
But then
whatever it is. Yeah.
You eliminate or utilize it at a certain point, correct?
Yes.
So he's got these grass-fed animals. So cool. Love that.
That's a big thing in New Zealand. New Zealand grass-fed animals.
A lot of grass.
That's primo meat.
Well, didn't they film Lord of the Rings in New Zealand?
Yes.
A lot of grass there. It's a beautiful place. So he said, I agree with what you guys are talking about with eating veggie, fruits, seeds, and grains, etc. Mm-hmm. But he wants to know how the whole situation actually affects him from the spiritual side if he's slaughtering these animals that he has upkeep with and starts to develop what he says is a familial relationship with them.
Well, it looks like he's, whether it's a ranch or something like that, it's like been in the family for generations.
Yeah.
So you have this view, and we talked about this earlier, of this, you probably don't want to let your family down.
No.
This is tradition.
Right.
It's been this way for however long, I don't know, maybe hundreds of years.
But he's probably thinking like, fuck, I'm like taking a life. And I spent so much time with this thing and now I'm going to kill it.
Yes.
Like, what does that make me? So first of all, let's get into this. When the question's being asked, how does this affect the spiritual side? Nothing physical can affect something that is spiritual. Physical is material.
Right.
Spiritual is non-material.
Right. Yes.
They're married together, but they don't have the interaction which you're talking about. Okay? So when I explained this to our community member here, I said that when you are going to eat the meat, these animals are living a life that are much better than ones you find in a controlled animal feeding operation. Large things where they're like raising massive amounts of livestock and slaughtering them in a very industrial manner.
Right.
Okay? With that, they have higher fat contents that sit in the muscle. It's not going to be as good for you. There's more strain on it, like a bunch of other things that occur genetically to the animal before you end up eating it. Not to mention they spray it with a certain chemical that keeps that meat pink for a long time. Right?
Oh yeah, there's so much. Factory farming is horrific.
Yeah, it's horrific. Now, and so the approach that's taken here is that this gentleman is very close to nature, working with the cycles of the animals, working with the cycle of the seasons, working with the cycles of themselves and his own hunger and procurement of this stuff that gives him and his family sustenance. All right? This is a much more astute, responsible, and creationally aligned way of living. It's fantastic that he actually goes and raises this livestock and slaughters it without any waste. I'm sure all of it gets used.
Right.
And there's full utilization of the animal.
Yeah, that's 10 times better than anything else.
Right.
But there is a dilemma. And I eat meat, and I'm going to still get into the dilemma here because here's what I think in my head. But I still love meat.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the problem.
What?
If Raw's teachings are true, the law of one teachings, then that's basically a person, kind of. And it's like a second density person. And you're going against free will. You're going against free will of an animal because the animal would choose to live. It would not want to die. You know what I mean? So, and if someday that animal will get out of that animal meat suit and then become third density,
all right,
there's a soul there, right?
Yeah. So let's go through this for a second. If you want to go a couple layers deep,
Because I like, even like I said, I eat meat, but I still like to have the dichotomy.
Okay.
I think it's important.
So human beings have a creationally driven consciousness, which means that we have the ability to think and act for ourselves amongst free will. Every animal on this planet is driven by instinct impulses. It has an instinct consciousness. It is not fundamentally making choice. It is but another piece of nature itself. Okay? So animals don't want to die, do they? No. But a hawk will come down and rip something out of a field.
Oh,
right?
yeah. They do it to each other unconsciously.
Okay, great. So there's a natural process and balance that occurs.
Right.
Because these animals need provisioning. They need sustenance. Things on this planet which live within this biosphere have an interaction. Now, for us, we are working with these impulse beings. These impulse beings afford us sustenance.
Right.
At a biological level, our body is designed omnivorically so that we can ingest plants and animals. All right?
Yeah.
So when you go about this process, you shouldn't feel like you're doing a disservice or you're actually harming something. These things are there for utilization. Think of them as the natural course of nature, like sunlight. Sunlight is always there for use.
Right.
You're absorbing the sunlight.
Right.
So what are you doing? Killing the sun? No, you're absorbing it.
Well, a plant would be the same thing because that's second density.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely correct. Right. So you're absorbing these things, these provisions which naturally arrive through the natural course of nature. You are making free will decisions, and these things are there for utilization. Don't abuse it. Through the abuse of these things, through large controlled animal feeding operations and other things of the sort, and you're eating too much meat, right? You're out of balance, out of that moderation. Now you're going to start to cause physical harm to the self and to the planet.
Yes, 100%.
Now it's a problem when it comes to eating the meat. But if you go about the process which this gentleman is talking about here, that's something that makes a hell of a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I think some people do really, really well on plant-based, just purely plant-based.
Sure.
And I think some people have this whole view of killing anything, like is horrific. So I get that. I understand that. If that's the way you feel, that's totally fine. I just don't, I think, and I may be wrong, correct me, please. But I think hunting and using every part of the animal, to me, is something that we've had for how long? Humans in and of themselves.
Very, very long time.
Yeah, so I think it's in our DNA.
Say we weren't here. You're great, and so we really have to round this out here. Say humans didn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
Say this individual was not caring for these livestock. What if they were just meandering around?
There wouldn't be that many cows, anyways.
There wouldn't be that many.
We created dogs and cows,
of course, right? We create these surpluses, but these things are just walking around. Right. What happens?
They're going to get devoured by
other stuff.
A mountain lion or something.
Nature comes in and utilizes the animal as a provision of substance.
Right. Yeah, I get
Correct?
that. Yes.
So we are in here looking at these things and utilizing them, again, as a provision of sustenance. It's not going to have a negative spiritual effect on you. Here's where the transition occurs, right? How does this reform our evolution? Well, by taking this alignment, which he says is going out and, taking the livestock and utilizing it after they've been grass-fed and they're all healthy and stuff like that, there's a thought that occurs. I'm eating something which I've raised. I've seen the cycles of nature, and I'm thankful for what I'm receiving. Now, eating meat does not put any negative effect on your spiritual evolution at all. Zilch. How you think about the process
Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying.
and derive truths from it through your consciousness, which is non-material, that at the end of your life, when you distill that down, that will affect your spiritual evolution.
Yeah, it's 100%.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So to answer it, eating things like that, you could eat fucking candy all day long, right? But it's the thought about what is actually occurring. But, the balance makes sense in a body aspect, a highly physical aspect with what?
Yeah, if you just have sugar all day long.
Yeah, correct.
Eventually you're going to get diabetes.
Yeah, you're going to get sick, right? And then, and obviously there's a sickness of the mind, and then something wasn't learned. But something is learned here. There's a relationship with nature which this person is cultivating, no pun intended. And then from that, the thoughts are the things that are going to evolve the spirit itself in its learning later on. But currently right now at this point, there's no negative aspects to eating that meat.
Yeah, I think if we look at even chopping a tree down and then we've learned like mitochondria and what's going on and how they're talking to each other, and there's a language there.
Mycorrhiza.
I think we're going to be, we're going to be when we're highly evolved to the point to where we can kind of look and see what's going on fully, I think we're going to be shocked at how intelligent nature is.
Absolutely.
All the way around.
Yeah. It's going to
from the soil bacteria to just because it looks like I was watching that thing the other day and I don't know what it is. It looks like a little tiny slug, but you can cut it in half.
Yeah.
And it stays, it heals itself really fast, stays the same thing. It's just 4 of the same thing. It doesn't become a new thing. And they live forever.
That's a problem.
Like they literally live forever. Lobsters do the same thing. They just get taken out.
I wish we had like that sort of DNA, but we could put that in with our teeth.
Well, that's what they think they have that tea, that's longevity tea.
No, teeth.
Oh,
like
teeth.
imagine if you lose a tooth.
Oh, that would be awesome.
It just always grows back.
They'll figure that out.
Yeah.
These guys are on it. These Google dudes with longevity.
So in simplicity here.
Simplicity.
Eating meat does not have, which is a highly physical thing that you do, which is required, right? It's a sustenance. It's food. It allows you to live. Does not directly influence the spiritual side of your evolution, which is something non-material. Remember that those two things are separate, and the only thing that bridges it is thought. Okay?
But taking a macro view, we eat way too much meat, and we need to eat more vegetables.
100% true. A majority of diets
for the planet
are out of balance, highly fat saturated, and things that come from larger industrial operations also have a higher chemical and neurotoxin, heavy metal inputs that are in there, and
ammonia,
fats that you don't want. Yeah, ammonia. Yeah, that you really don't want in your body because they're caustic and toxic. And so we all know what that does. Pretty simple at a cellular level. So thank you very much, our friend, for sharing this. We're happy to answer any more questions. We hope that this was helpful, and we hope others could also learn from this, because if one person has a question, multiple people have questions, right?
Yes.
All right, very good. And also, I want to thank our sponsor, because we haven't talked about it in a long time, Quality Mazda, right? They are a automotive dealership group here in New Mexico, and they do a fantastic job of educating you through the buying process of a Mazda itself, car which you drive. Mm-hmm. I like being in. Great sound systems, comfy seats. And beyond that, if you're in the Colorado, Texas, and New Mexico area, and you're looking to purchase one of these vehicles, you can do it totally online, and they'll ship it to you.
Yes. 100%.
How cool is that?
Yeah. Everything's online. You can do everything.
Super fucking cool. Yeah. And it also supports a nice local business, and they have been proud supporters here of Higher Density Living for a couple years now. So we thank them as much as they thank us. So everybody, we look forward to catching you on our next episode, and please check out the new website at higherdensityliving.com.